Here's Brody Brazil.
I came up with kind of this list here of looking at my NBC Sports notepad there of things I wanted to talk about here after the game. And actually, I could probably just continue on with Ryan Merkley. Great observations there by a couple people, and Kersey was one, Shang Peng was another. Defensively, the Sharks stepping up in the last two games, probably how they've won these games. I think there is a lot to be said about that. Yeah, tonight Buffalo gets 3, but last game Winnipeg only got 1. Reimer and net, probably a big reason for that, but as was asked of John McClain, probably just simplifying things with the puck, but also especially without the puck. So all of these young defensemen doing that job, but for Ryan Merkley, I think with the puck, I made the reference earlier on. In fact, it was during the game, so a lot of you might have missed this. Reminds me in flashes, and I've only seen 6 periods of him in the NHL, but reminds me a little bit of Dan Boyle. Undersized. I don't know if he's the quickest skater out there, but you can tell he's mentally ahead of the game. He makes all the right decisions and feels very comfortable handling the puck at the point. So I don't want to put the weight of, oh yeah, you've got to be Dan Boyle now. But I definitely think there's something to be said and made about that comparison here early on. Tomas Hurtle, another 2-goal game, his second 2-goal game of the season. And for more on that, let me bring up my old stat sheet here. So for Tomas Hurtle now, 5 goals on the year, which if I'm pretty sure about this, if I'm correct, he and Timo Meier now co-lead the team, each with 5 goals. And for Hurtle, a goal last game, 2 more in this one. That line, he and Balsers, no surprise. Rudy got the primary assist on both the Hurtle goals. Those two guys look like a tandem. Gosh, I guess I didn't even realize Hurtle also secondary assisted on Merkley's goal. 3-point night for number 48. But I love to see these defining games and outputs from him. His season obviously started really hot. I think those first couple games went really well, kind of tailed away from the limelight a bit. It was all about the Couture line and Jonathan Dahlen, who I'll talk more about in just a second. But nice to see kind of Hurtle jump back into the limelight as, one of the top performers and not just in gameplay, but also in result. I hit the wrong, now I'm look at this. I totally screwed myself up here. All right, now I really want to talk about what I think is the main story surrounding this team. It's hard to figure out how are they doing this, minus so many of their key players, from Erik Karlsson to Vlasic to Timo Meier, your leading goal scorer going into tonight. Kevin Labanc is an every night player, obviously, and should be helping you out, especially in the power play. How is this team looking? Getting the results, but looking so good when they're up against pretty much the most adversity they've seen all season. They had lost 3 games in a row. They lost 7 players. They don't even have their head coach, right? The whole coaching structure behind the bench has had to change, and the person tapping shoulders is totally different in these last 2 games. It just goes to show you how flexible, how fortunate the Sharks are to have the Barracuda kind of be one and the same. It's a totally different league. It's a totally different level, but to have their players accessible and to be able to teach kind of one system that these guys can come up and just play is amazingly helpful in situations like these. I cannot really get over the fact that this is something like this in each of the 2 prior seasons, the COVID list situation surrounding the Sharks. This is ultimately what would have knocked them off the rest of the way. They would have lost both these 2 games. They'd now have a 5-game losing streak. You'd find out that all their players are going to be 10 days, 14 days from coming back. And look, I'm up for whatever needs to happen. I want to protect them as human beings. I'm not saying this as a complaint. I'm just saying the way luck would have it for the Sharks of seasons prior would have been the worst case scenario because of this huge bump in the road. Instead, this team bounces back under the hottest of temperatures. And that's why a lot of people are very excited about this team. I know it's just 9 games, but once we get from the 10 to 20 game mark, you're going to have and we're not even halfway there yet, but by the 20-game mark of this season, you're going to have a little taste of what this group is made of, probably who they should be. It's not to say they won't have more setbacks, but 25% of the way through, you're going to have a really good read on this club. James Reimer. So Drew said the other night, after holding Winnipeg to 1, and they only got their goal late when they were pushing, Sharks won 2-1 in overtime. The way Reimer looked on, is it like 40 saves, 43 saves? I can't remember, but Reimer looked excellent last game, and Drew's like, how do you not start him again next game? Well, they did tonight. So my question is, on Thursday, like, you don't want Aiden Hill to get rusty. You don't want to make it so that you're putting somebody else behind the 8 ball, but how do you not keep going right back to James Reimer? I mean, he allowed 3 tonight. 1 was late again, but I think Reimer and the team defense is one of their strong points in these last 6 periods. Love to see it. Mario Ferraro and Brent Burns logging a ton of time tonight. Mario almost got to 30 minutes. Oh, look, that time went up. You know what I didn't? Or no, did it go down a little bit? I thought he was 29-something. Maybe this got altered at the end. But 28-48 and 26-59 for 88 and 38. That's a ton of time, and these guys, throughout the absence of a 65 and a 44, like the weight is going to be on their shoulders to play a ton of time. Now, can you, and do you want to do that to these guys? I mean, Burnsy's always had high minutes, and Mario's a young guy who's in great shape and probably loves the opportunity, and especially playing with Burnsy. But, how monitoring that, right? And how could you? I wish we could have heard from Mario tonight after the goal. I bet he would have been great in the interview. But I'm just saying, like, how do you manage them? Like, I'm glad they're getting results, but how do you pace them through a period where they're going to have to be critical players on a pretty every night basis? Just shut this real fast. It's important, right? You do not want to burn those guys out. Other points here. Oh, for Ryan Merkley, I guess I wrote him down twice here, but to get that first goal, I talked about the Dan Boyle comparison. What do you do next? Like, what happens if he keeps playing, up to a certain level? It's going to be hard when you're fully healthy and it's like, we don't want to send you back. I don't know. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know when and where that bridge is going to be, but that's interesting, right? What if Ryan Merkley takes this opportunity and sprints with it? Gets interesting, right? In a very good way. And in the same way, my last 2 names here on the list are Eklund and Dahlin. Jonathan Dahlin, let me start with him. 4 goals already this season, and I love the way that, but not only did he get the first, I mean, that's kind of a tone setter of the game, but to have 4 goals now on the season, just came off the COVID list from last game. So, had to sit out, caught a breather, so to speak. An interesting story that he played a handful of games with the Barracuda, realized that I still want to go work on some things, went back to Europe, is their league's leading scorer, is the MVP of the league, comes back, makes the Sharks roster. Logan Couture, eyed him during training camp. He eyed him out and said, I want to play with this guy. I want this guy on my line. And now you've got Jonathan Dahlin. So I guess 8 NHL games and 4 goals already. I don't have the complete updated stats, but let's look at Dahlin's night tonight. Individually, 76, played 14:55, 19 shifts. I don't know, probably one of those on the power play looks like for about 33 seconds. Only just had the shot that went in. And there you go. But I mean, I'm looking at playing time, about 15 minutes. That's right along the lines. I mean, Hurtle played 16:22. Bonino's at 16:40. Looking at other forwards here, what did Logan play? 17:53. So, a respectable opportunity. Obviously, you're on Logan's line. This is prime time, and he's delivering. So I love the lineage. I love thinking about Ulf Dahlin. I love the fact that, and Drew, who watched Ulf play and knew Ulf on a very close basis, and he says Jonathan looks very much the same. I love that. I can't wait to see how this continues to pan out. And, of the big three rookies of Weatherby, Dahlin, and Eklund, Eklund came in with the most hype, and I'll finish with him in just a second, but a lot about just turning 19, surprised that the Sharks drafted him, surprised that he had a really good preseason, points in every game, a goal in the last one. Then he made the team. Then did he have an assist? He had like a point almost, I think he had a point per game the first 3 games, off to a really good start, then kind of tailed away, sat a game. They didn't want to play him back-to-back, but again, Eklund in a second. And Weatherby's been a really good player too. Very important that he can play right down the middle. He can win draws. Weatherby tonight. Where is he here? There he is. Won 5 of 8 draws. There you go. 3 hits. Blocked a shot. Took a shot. So, very solid player. But to me, and to get back to the point here, if I'm really looking at the Sharks Calder Trophy winner, internally, yeah, it's probably Dahlin at this point. But I hope all 3 of those guys have success. And that brings me to maybe the last point I wanted to make here on William Eklund. And it's just what does the future hold? I know there's all this talk about, the 10-game mark and either executing or, continuing the contract or sending him back to Europe, or maybe keeping him here in North America, but understanding that a trip to the AHL, if warranted, is in the cards. I said it first, and I'm kind of repeating myself here from probably about an hour ago, but I said it first that I just wanted the Sharks to do what they thought was best for him in the long term, so that even if you really, really just wanted him to be here now and you thought that maybe you could fast track him and go through your struggles now, like I don't know if that's the best way to harness a young 19-year-old player into this league to set him up for superstardom success. I just don't know. So my intentions back then were, I really want them to do whatever's best in the long-term interest of number 72, William Eklund. Now, kind of seeing that he's done enough, like he's not struggling in this league by any means. He's not having maybe the Dahlin type success, but I don't think he's overmatched. I think he's playmaking. I think he's doing all the right things. There's a lot of encouraging factors that would lead me to believe he's done enough to stay up here. And certainly now, the COVID situation, the way that's been, dictating roster moves and available players. Do you really want to lose a player now just because you felt like, we're not sure about it? I think the situation is such and his performance is such that you're probably keeping him here at this point, right? And I guess we're 9 games in. He's played 8. So is the next game after next game, that's the factor, right? I guess we'll find out. And for me, that's probably where I'm at right now. But overall, final thought on this. I mean, look, you've got a Sharks team that came out of the gate really hot. Opening night, comeback win, go on that road trip, win the first couple games, win 4 in a row, lose 3 in a row, but, with some good things about it. Now you've won 2. And now you've got the chance on Thursday and on Saturday. Hey, if you finish off the rest of this homestand with 2 more wins in a row, or even if you just split, it's a pretty respectable homestand, all things considered. But I'm interested in seeing how the Sharks can continue keeping pace under the situation they're facing, missing a lot of regulars, having guys step in. I love this. I'm cautiously optimistic about how long and how well this goes. It's gone great through 6 periods. And I certainly hope it goes, like the Jets had won 4 in a row. There's no slouch about that. The Sabres are already, with 5-2-1 coming in tonight. Like it's not a bad Sabres team. So this is not like the Sharks are getting, lucky here. They've gotten unlucky and responded in tremendous ways. So where does this go? I think the next couple games give you a really good read on the chemistry of this group, the potential of this group, and specifically the young players.